Get your raffle tickets. Get your raffle tickets. The pot is over $1,500. Get your raffle tickets.
Matt Nance is my favorite, Matt. Yep. None of them are planned, so we'll see what happens. Welcome, everybody. It is 12 o'clock. That means you have about 15 minutes till we start the meeting. So if you don't have your food, please go get it. And if you're not eating, don't worry about it. Don't encourage it. It can go out of bounds real quick.
Sarah Gar Aarons. Sarah's husband, Bruce.
Aaron's, like A-A-R-O-N.
E-H-R-E-M-S.
E-
E-H-R-E-M-S.
E-H-R-E-M-S. Aarons.
Aarons.
Aaron's. Did you N-S?
N.
Okay.
So Bruce.
And she's a member?
She's a member.
Okay.
Her husband, Bruce, is home on hospice. Thanks.
Will do.
Last chance for raffle tickets. Raffle tickets on sale. Pot is over $1,500. Come see me.
You get 59 seconds now, buddy. 59 seconds. They do. Well, for you, I think it'd get even more. I know you won't, but I could trust you with that. Not everybody. Uh-huh.
Will this be in your way here?
Well, I don't know. You gonna hit me with it, or are you gonna?
I might.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Nope, that should be just fine. Just fine. You ready? What's the worst that could happen? They throw stuff at me? I'm running the meeting again. Margaret, yeah, I did the last one. I'm president-elect. Margaret's gone again. Should be fun. It's the day he suggested. Yeah. I could do it earlier. Because I don't have anything after this. Do we want to just meet down the council? Really? Maybe let's just figure it out after the meeting. Okay.
Last chance for raffle tickets. The pot is over $1,500. Last chance. Come get them while they're hot.
And you're going to introduce Dick, not me, right?
I wasn't planning on it, but I certainly can. Or you can. I mean, he's the chairman of the board of FEMA Medical Institute, and the former CEO and meeting sponsor. I think.
And how do you pronounce the last name? Lupke. Just like it's spelled. Lupke. Lupke.
Yes, if you're comfortable doing it,
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, I've got to do John's, and hopefully the rowdy table will be fine.
To me or you?
To me.
Oh, yeah. Well, they'll have it out for me. You'll be fine. No worries.
You want to start Q&A at 1 o'clock or finish everything?
Finish everything. If we can. I mean, I've got some things I can. Well, if Dorina says it's okay.
Where are you from? I'm hometown Evanston.
Okay. So, good year.
Fine.
So it's been a little while. It's been a little while.
Still an annual until it's over. They were incredible opportunity.
That's why they play the game, right? Yeah, exactly. It's been a weird year. And when you see the 49ers and Cowboys set out looking eventually, all of a sudden they start losing games. Well, the Cowboys always do. I didn't expect that.
Personality outside of me.
Yeah, and it's not just the coach, right?
Oh, that's all it is. One franchise.
Well, then you get players that don't do well on one team, and they go to another team, and all of a sudden, right? Yeah.
Well, human nature.
Human nature, yep. Yes, there's just paper here. You can go right over top of that. Yeah, if you need me to, do you have a?
No, I don't. No, I just
Okay.
maybe, yeah,
Then, yeah. Well, I don't know. I'll pull it down after he goes. Yeah, perfect.
the other thing is
The clock. Do you want that moved, or are you okay with that there? It's a pretty wide. If you need, We'll wing it. If you need to move it, I'll just grab it. Perfect. I may be wrong, but I think when you hear the bell, we stand. Welcome to the November 15th meeting of the Rotary Club of Tucson. We have a good crowd today. That means it wasn't announced that I was running the meeting. I'm filling in for our president, Margaret Higgins. I'd like to welcome up Rob Toole, Health and Fitness Wellness Coaching with Elements Leadership Solutions, to do the pledge and song. And we're going to do the four-way test.
So for the four-way test, are the things we think, say, or do. First,
Second, to spare all concern. Third, will build goodwill and better friendships. Fourth, will be beneficial to all concerned. Thank you. So you may be seated. Real quick here, we want to go through and just have a moment of thought and prayers. Our former member, Alan Bolzomi, who led Rotaract and Interact, he had a brain bleed and went under surgery and then developed an infection with his heart. Also, Sarah Gar-Ahrens, her husband, Bruce, is on hospice care, so please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And next, we have a inspirational video.
Greetings to all Rotary members across the globe. I'm humbled by the opportunity to serve as Rotary President for 2023 and 2024. In the year ahead, we will make progress towards eradicating polio and create hope in the world through service projects in our areas of focus. But I want to spend a couple of minutes discussing another important way Rotary will create lasting change this year by focusing on mental health. People today are hurting. Many of them don't know how to ask for help. But everyone needs a safe place where people of all ages and in all cultures can share triumphs and open up about life's challenges. Rotary can be that place. In Rotary, we show comfort and care to each other. We invite our members to bring their whole authentic selves. And we move beyond the simple question of, how are you? To ask, how are you really? Research shows that performing acts of kindness is the most effective step anyone can take to protect our sense of well-being and to make us more resilient to all the challenges life throws our way. Mental wellness is deeply personal to me. I know what it's like to see someone close to me suffer through adversity in silence and be eaten up by it. But I have also witnessed the power of personal connections, the value of holding space to discuss emotional and mental well-being, and the life-saving impact of access to preventive care and treatment. So let's work together to erase stigmas, raise awareness and improve access to mental health services, so that together we can support one another and our loved ones, our clubs and our communities, create hope in the world.
Next, I'd like to welcome up Dan Calm, our famous Sergeant at Arms, to introduce our guests.
Well, welcome, everyone. It's good to see so many smiling faces and so many colorful jerseys in the crowd. Thank you so much. If you are not a Rotarian, there are quite a few folks here from other clubs. I suggest if you would think about being a Rotarian to talk to somebody, because we've really been on a membership drive and doing a great job with that. That being said, if you are a guest from another club or just a guest in general, would you please stand so we can recognize you? Thank you very much, and to our guests watching at home, I say welcome as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. For those of you that don't know, I'm Curtis Dawson. I'm the president-elect. I did the meeting 2 weeks ago, and they decided I needed a whole lot of practice, so they asked me to do it again. Next, a big thank you to our sponsor, Pima Medical Institute, for today's meeting. And I'd like to introduce and welcome up Dick Lubke.
Well, it's good to be here. They said I'd get 3 minutes, and after 3 minutes, you start throwing rolls at me. So that's a good warning. Good friends in the audience: Wayne Wood, Diana Medeiros. You should find them. And met some old friends from St. Mary's, Daryl Stewart. A little bit about Pima Medical Institute. It's probably we're just a really small school at one time. Back in 1972, my dad started the school. We train medical professionals, now all the way up to a master's degree in nursing. The school has grown from its humble beginnings to 17 campuses in 8 states. And we just recently graduated our 160,000th graduate. And so, anyway, proud of that. We have something in common with the 1997 U of A Wildcats. You remember them? Our only national champion. One of our distinctive programs at PMI is our respiratory program, and they compete annually in all of our states. They have a competition for respiratory therapists called the Sputum Bowl. Does that sound appetizing? It's kind of a throwback to the college quiz game. Do you remember that game? It was back in the late 60s. You had Harvard against Yale. This is one that is a competition with respiratory therapists. The judges are pulmonologists, and so high-level questions. And so our school in Denver has won the national championship 4 years. But 1 year, we were going the Final Four. We were going against the University of Michigan, the University of North Carolina, and the University of Texas. And here we are. We felt like David and Goliath, little old Pima Medical out of Tucson, Arizona, and we eventually won the national championship. So much like I can sort of remember the year that they won that Final Four. They had to go through. It was a very tough Final Four. 3 number 1 seeds. Is that right? Anyway, good to be with you. I have 2 board members that are Rotarians here, Jim Lubinsky and Gary Hirsch. So anyway, it's good to be with you today. Glad we could sponsor.
Thank you so much. Thank you again. And how about them cats? Right? We played this team, was it a little team called Duke? And I think we won. And prime time wasn't so prime on Saturday, and I'm okay with that. That's the coach for the, just be clear if you needed that one there. Next, it is my great pleasure to introduce the person that called me a smart person when I started the meeting today. He didn't use the word person, but Gary Hirsch. Yes, it is. It is your time. Consulting, business services. We went to the same college, Evergreen State College, different years, but Gary?
Very different years.
It's all yours.
So I should have made a deal with the rowdy table to be kind to me while I'm up here doing this introduction. Can we make a deal, Dan? Right. So it really is a privilege to introduce John. He's been the chief executive at Rotary International and the foundation since 2011. And he has quite a storied background. From 04 to 09, he was vice president at the Millennial Challenge Corporation, which is a government agency whose charter is to deliver foreign assistance to the world's poorest countries. Prior to that, he was an international partner with a law firm, Baker and McKenzie, specializing in international corporate transactions in emerging markets. And really cool, he helped establish the firm's Moscow office and was the managing partner of its offices in Kyiv and Prague. While working in the Ukraine, he also assisted the working group that put together the initial draft of the Ukrainian post-Soviet era constitution and was a charter member of the first Rotary Club in Kyiv. He's been a public policy scholar at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars, an adjunct professor of law at Georgetown University. He did go to Harvard Law, so he's kind of used to getting into these fancy schools. He's got a master's in modern history from Oxford University and a bachelor's in government and Soviet studies from Hamilton College in New York. He leads a staff of 800 people, a lot of which is kind of invisible to us when we come together to meet, including Evanston and 7 international offices. More recently, and really relevant to why John is here this time of year, this is his 11th year riding an El Tour to Tucson. In 2013, in recognition of the fact that John appears to be the single highest fundraiser in the history of El Tour de Tucson, John was named the dedication recipient, which means that year everybody who rode got a medal with John's likeness on it. And it's not fair to introduce John without recognizing the Montaians, because in a fortuitous encounter on a ferry boat at an international conference, I think it was Ernie who suggested to John he might want to come do this little bike ride with us, and the subsequent 11 years are history. He's been a timeless promoter of this ride, and I'm just thrilled to introduce John. Please join me in a rousing District 5500 and Rotary Club of Tucson welcome.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much, Curtis, for the invitation to be here today. Gary, thank you for that very, very warm and overly generous introduction. And to Ernie and Sally, I'm delighted to have been able to meet you on that water ferry in 2012 at the Bangkok Convention. That's sort of where I found out about El Tour and the great work that the Rotarians in this district have been doing, using El Tour to raise money for polio eradication. As Gary mentioned, it's my 11th tour this year. Really looking forward to it, although it's probably in the worst shape that I've been in the 11 years. But it's all about a good cause, about raising money for polio eradication. And I think what's absolutely incredible is that through the work of many of you here in this room and the efforts, we have now raised over $60 million for polio eradication through the annual bike ride here in Tucson, the El Tour de Tucson. That's a absolutely incredible achievement. And so as Gary mentioned, I have the pleasure and honor of being your general secretary, and I lead a staff of around 800 in the Rotary International Secretariat. We have about 600 staff members at our world headquarters in Evanston, which is where I'm based. And then we have another 200 staff members, a little over 200 in our 7 offices outside the United States. We own our own building. Rotary International owns their own building. 18-story building in Evanston is probably the premier office building on the North Shore of Chicago. We use half for Rotary purposes, and the other half we lease out. So you're all welcome to come and visit us. We get visitors from all over the world that come to Evanston. A lot to see within our building. We obviously offer tours and updates and presentations by staff members when you come in terms of what's going on at Rotary, and then you can do your makeup lunch if you want at the Rotary Club of Chicago, which was the original Rotary Club, Paul Harris's club. Visit the Paul Harris home, which the Chicagoland Rotarians have refurbished to the way it was when Paul died. And then very close to the home is the Paul Harris grave. and the Rotarians in Chicagoland area have done a fantastic job of maintaining that grave site. It's very, very interesting. And what's interesting is that the founder of Lions is buried about 50 yards from where Paul is buried. And I can tell you that Paul's gravesite is a heck of a lot better. And so even in death, friendly rivalry, Paul is besting his counterpart over at Lions. So please come visit us. You're all welcome to come. As I said, we get visitors from all over the world. Now, I've been asked to share with you some of my thoughts on several topics, one of which is the future of Rotary and the future of our organization. And as you know, every year the president of our country here in the United States gives a State of the Union address to the U.S. Congress, and certainly as far as I can remember, they all tend to start their speeches with something along the lines of, my fellow Americans, the state of our union is strong. And so let me continue in that vein and state that, my fellow Rotarians, the future of Rotary is very, very bright. But, and I'll get to that but in a minute. But first I thought it might be helpful just to summarize for you where we stand as an organization, again, taking a global perspective. Of course, the big story over the last 3.5 years has been this COVID pandemic, this pandemic that unleashed so much tragedy on the world. And I must say, I think all of us, all of us, can be extraordinarily proud of how our organization, Rotary, weathered the crisis. In March of 2020, the Secretariat and basically the entire Rotary world had to move to a virtual format. And there was a lot of concern about how this would affect our membership, how it would affect our finances, and how it would affect giving to the Rotary Foundation. And I think we responded as really only Rotarians can. I think we adapted, we changed, and I think we came through this crisis with flying colors. From an operational perspective, the Secretariat, we certainly didn't miss a beat. We continued to support you, the Rotarians around the world, our 1.4 million Rotary members, our 47,000 clubs around the world, to the same level that we did pre-COVID. We had to quickly organize a virtual international convention, a virtual international assembly, which is our annual event in January, where we bring all the district governor-elects from around the world for training. Board meetings, trustee meetings, committee meetings, all had to move to a virtual format. We had to provide clubs the tools, helpful tools in terms of how to navigate this new reality. And so, in some ways, we were actually even more busier than we were pre-COVID. So, operationally, again, we didn't miss a beat. And as now life has returned to what will hopefully be the new normal, I can state with a great deal of confidence that from an operational standpoint, our organization, again, from a global perspective, is in a very, very strong position. Fundraising, again, there's a big concern that fundraising would drop off due to COVID. We did, in each of the COVID years, raise the $50 million to enable us to receive the $100 million match from the Gates Foundation for polio eradication. So every year, if we raise 50 and spend 50 million on polio, we will get an additional 100 million from the Gates Foundation. And again, thankfully, we have every year under the arrangement we have with Gates been able to raise that 50 million. During COVID, we broke all of our foundation fundraising records. In fact, last year we raised $430 million at the Rotary Foundation. That includes the 150 from Gates. But again, there was a concern fundraising would drop off. To the contrary, fundraising increased, and as I said, last year we set a record, all-time record for $430 million raised by the Rotary Foundation. And why is that important? Why is it important that we, all of us as Rotarians, support the Rotary Foundation and that we continue to raise money? Because I think a strong and continued support of the foundation really enables us to continue to have an incredible impact around the world. In fact, one of the things that often strikes me as I travel the Rotary world is really the lack of understanding that some Rotarians have of the incredible impact that we have as an organization on not only on the local level, but on the regional and global level. I think most Rotarians appreciate, the impact they have through their local club projects and the impacts they're having in their community. but often are really unaware of the incredible impact that we have globally through the Rotary Foundation. And I think the list is incredibly impressive. You know, starting with polio eradication, we Rotarians have raised over $2.6 billion for polio eradication since we began this effort back in 1985. And as you're aware, we're now down to just 2 countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan, where the wild virus is still circulating. And this year to date, we've had 6 cases in Afghanistan and 4 in Pakistan. So we are very, very close to eradicating this disease. And of course, when we do that, we will be leaving a legacy for as long as mankind inhabits the earth. Think about that. Your efforts, the efforts of all of us who supported the polio eradication effort, the efforts of everyone who's going to be riding on Saturday, and everyone who's supporting the ride, and the money we're raising, we are doing that in order to leave a legacy that will exist for as long as mankind inhabits the earth. That for me is a very, very powerful thought, and what keeps me motivated to come back to Tucson, to do this ride, and to make sure we get across the finish line and finally eradicate this disease. The thousands and thousands of global grants that the Foundation provides to clubs and districts for projects in our 7 areas of focus, whether it be water and sanitation, disease prevention treatment, literacy, maternal and child health, the environment, which is our newest 7th area of focus, and the various district grants that are used for all kinds of projects at the local and regional level. Our Peace Fellows program. Every year we provide 100 full-ride scholarships for students to do master's degrees in peace and conflict studies at 7 universities with whom we have an affiliation around the world. We have a $150 million endowment for that. We've now graduated over 1,600 Peace Fellows since the program started, who are out there doing great work, contributing to making the world a more peaceful place. We've just launched something called Program to Scale several years ago, where the Rotary Foundation is making significant grants to clubs and districts who, on a competitive basis, provide proposals for funding for large-scale projects that are really going to have a regional or international impact. And so the first winner was a program in $6 million program in Zambia to eliminate malaria in 2 provinces that still had the disease. Last year, the winner was a cervical cancer project in Egypt, and we also have a large program in Nigeria to reduce maternal neonatal mortality. So these are all new innovations, new programs we've developed in order to really even further the impact of our great Rotary Foundation. And of course, all the various scholarships that are provided through the foundation, and then of course all the various programs that Rotary offers globally to our members. Our Rotary Fellowships, we have over 100 fellowships, and you name the topic, there is a fellowship. Dave Gallagher and I are talking about the caravanning fellowship that Rotarians get together and they do RVing, beer drinking, cigar smoking, sailing, you name it. There's a fellowship that spans the globe, and so I would urge you to find out about them. And if you have interest in some of these topics and you want to sort of go global with that interest, participate in a fellowship. There's a big biking fellowship. There's a Rotary Action Groups, our youth exchange program. You know, we send about 9,000 students a year around the world. And I can't tell you how many times when I'm at a international conference, let's say at Davos or at UNGA, UN General Assembly representing Rotary, I'll run into Fortune 500 CEOs or ministers, even presidents of countries, and I'll say, John Hewko from Rotary, and they'll say, oh yeah, Rotary. I was a youth exchange student in Chile. It changed my life. I am who I am thanks to Rotary. And I'm beaming with pride. And then I ask them, so do you have any idea what we're up to as an organization now? And they go, no, I don't have a clue, but I do know it changed my life. And so that does tell us something about the fact that we need to better engage this extraordinary alumni network that we have around the world, because we have, through our youth exchange programs, significantly changed the lives of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. And so I think as a global organization, we're clearly having a huge impact. And the challenge has been, how do we quantify that? We know the $430 million we raised to the Rotary Foundation, but we didn't have any idea about what all of our 47,000 clubs, Rotaract Rotary, were raising locally, because that's information that we really weren't aware of. So we hired Johns Hopkins and Harvard, and they have teams that specialize with mathematical formulas and algorithms I can't even begin to understand, to try to, using statistical analysis, to determine what the global value is of organizations such as Rotary. And the number they came up with for us is annually we're about a $2.3 billion organization if you add up what all of our clubs are doing plus what is happening through the Rotary Foundation. And so that's just an incredible number, and I think all of us can be proud of being members of this great global network that's making such a difference around the world. And then finally, there was a lot of concern over COVID that we would suffer a large decline in membership. And in fact, what we found was, at least on a global basis, COVID, our membership rose actually slightly. We do have a membership issue, and I'll get to that in a minute, but at least on a global level, our membership did not decline as a result of COVID. And then finally, there was, as terrible as COVID was, there was one silver lining that, at least for Rotary, there was one silver lining. And that is, for a long time, we were trying to incentivize and encourage Rotarians to use technology in their club meetings and in the various activities we're doing. And it was really hard. It was a hard sell. And then all of a sudden, COVID came, and we had no choice but to pivot, to embrace technology and use it. And I think that was the silver lining for us. And now we're seeing that a lot of clubs, through hybrid models, through other forms, are utilizing technology in a very, very successful way. And so the state of Rotary, as I speak, at least from an operational, financial, and a membership perspective, looking at it globally, I think is very, very strong. Now, before I get to the but, I did want to just talk briefly about what was really another great achievement that I think all of us as Rotarians can be proud of. And that has to do with the way Rotary reacted to the war in Ukraine. When this horrific war, this unprovoked war that Russia unleashed on Ukraine began in February of last year, we did establish a disaster response fund for Ukraine. And very shortly thereafter, Rotarians contributed over $17 million around the world to that fund in a matter of months. That was an unprecedented response to an event, certainly in my experience at Rotary, and I suspect since the last 20 or 30 years. But that's really just the tip of the iceberg. In addition to the $17 million that we were able to receive as donations from Rotarians around the world, and then disperse out for projects and support for Ukraine, both in Ukraine and in the surrounding countries, we're calculating that an additional 60-some million of funding came directly from clubs and districts to Ukraine and the neighboring countries. So as an organization, we've contributed over $75 million to Ukraine in just these last 18 months. That's just an incredible achievement. And in fact, if there's ever any question about the importance of doing projects that have impact in the community in terms of helping us attract new members to our organization, membership in Ukraine has its own district. Membership has increased by 35% since the war started. You've got this horrific war going on, millions and millions of refugees, cities being leveled, city after city being bombed to the Stone Ages. And we see that people want to join our organization because they see the great work that our Rotarians are doing internally in Ukraine, outside of Ukraine, with the support of Rotarians from all around the world. So that's just, again, something that I, as your General Secretary, and I think all of us should be extraordinarily proud of how we reacted to the Ukraine crisis. And now for the but. As I travel the Rotary world, I often get asked two questions. One is, what's Rotary going to look like in 10 to 20 years? And then second, what are the things that kind of keep me up at night as I look out at our organization that might affect our future? And I think there's a lot of things that keep me up at night, but I think two in particular keep me up more than the others. And I'm going to highlight these issues not necessarily from a intrinsically negative perspective. We are an extraordinary organization. And in my 12 years as your General Secretary, I have to say that the more I travel the Rotary world, the more I see what Rotarians like you do around the world, the more I'm simply in awe of our organization. And in some ways, we're sort of the world's best kept secret. The $2.3 billion figure that I mentioned earlier is really incredibly impressive, but not a lot of people around the world, unfortunately, know about that. But again, we didn't get to where we are by not doing things very well for a very long time. And I would say the things we've done well have probably outnumbered the ones we didn't do so well by a factor of 10 to 1. And of course, all of you as dedicated Rotarians have played a huge role in getting us to where we are today. But I also think we need to, and again, I'm talking about it from a global perspective now, giving you a global vision of what our organization, where it stands today. I think we need to be honest with ourselves. And we need to be open and frank about some of the challenges we face and realize that we are, in my view, from a global perspective, at a crossroads. In fact, I'd say we're at an historic moment in our 118-year journey. And so I think as we look at our future and determine how we're going to navigate this crossroads and navigate these challenges I'm going to talk about in a second, I think we need to be guided by that sort of oft-repeated phrase that Paul Harris used quite a bit, and that is Rotary needs to be evolutionary at all times and revolutionary at times. And so I think this is a moment for us to be revolutionary. And so one of the two issues that keeps me up at night is membership. And again, this isn't an issue that's new to our organization. We've been talking about it for a long time. But our global membership of Rotarians has been flat at about 1.2 million now for over 25 years. And we've been able to maintain that level of global membership only because of significant membership growth in Asia, Africa, and parts of Eastern Europe. But in the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and certain parts of Europe, we have a membership crisis. I think your club may be one of the few exceptions where your membership has been stable or perhaps even growing. But if we look at North America, if we look at the United States as a whole, our membership is declining precipitously, particularly if you look at the downtown lunch clubs on the East Coast of the United States, huge membership declines. In fact, if the current membership trends globally continue, within 10 years, 50% of our Rotarians will be from Asia. The U.S. is going to be down to 15%. We started at 100 in 1905 by definition. We're going to be down to 15% if we don't change the membership trends here in the U.S. Now, it's fantastic that Rotary is growing in those parts of the world that I mentioned, but we need to grow Rotary everywhere. And so the question then is, how do we get there? How do we get there? And again, we need to realize that every year we get 150,000 new members join our organization globally, but every year we lose 150,000. And so we have in some ways a perfect storm of dramatic loss of membership in some of our key countries, such as the United States, coupled with the fact that we were able to attract new members, but they don't stay. They leave. And so what do we do? And for me, it's pretty straightforward. I think we need to realize that at the end of the day, we are selling a product. We're not selling soap, we're not selling cars, we're not selling bread. We're selling a product, and that product is the club experience. The experience you get when you join a Rotary Club. And you pay for that experience with your time and your money. And what we're finding is that in many parts of the world, particularly here in the United States, people are either not buying our product, or they buy it, and they find that it wasn't what it was cracked up to be. And so in the face of this issue, I think we have two options. We can continue doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, which I guess it was Einstein that said that's kind of the definition of insanity, or we can do something differently by either improving our product or offering new products that the marketplace will find appealing. And so for me in practice, this means either taking existing clubs that are not doing well, looking in the mirror and rethinking the offering, the product that club offers to the marketplace, or growing our organization through the creation of new and innovative club models. Now let me be clear, if a club is doing well, if the traditional club model is working, there's no need to change. There's no need to change. In addition, what can never change are our core values, the four-way test, the focus on ethics, the focus on service, the focus on fellowship. That's the essence of our DNA. That's the essence of Rotary. But how we structure our meetings, whether we ring the bell or not, whether we meet weekly or not, how we do those sorts of things. Those, in my view, are not our core values. They're just vessels through which we deliver the values. And again, if the traditional model is working, and it works fabulously in Taiwan, India, Korea, places that are really growing in membership where the traditional model is working, no need to change. But if it's not, we need to change. And so I like to say, you know, there is no Rotary police. And now clubs do have tremendous flexibility to fashion a different product that may not fully comply with the rules. And so we're having these companion clubs that are being created. In other words, a club will have a companion club where someone will join the companion club. You join the club, you pay full dues, you pay district dues, etc., but you join only to do service. We've got clubs that are being created around the causes, where they're not really not interested in classification, they're interested in causes. So people around a given cause, whether it's the environment or literacy or whatever. You have passport clubs that are being created where they only meet 6 times a year, and the rest of the time they spend doing projects for other clubs with other clubs in the district. And if they happen to like one of those clubs, they join it. If not, they continue in the passport club. So there's a lot of new different models that are being developed that may not necessarily comply with the rules, but are very, very attractive and very, very important. So my call to action really to the Rotary world is, particularly in this country and this region where we have significant membership decline, is to let's step back and rethink and relook at our product. If it's working well, no need to change. But if it isn't, you now have the flexibility and the ability to fashion a product that is perhaps more attractive to the kind of person you're trying to attract to your club. And if that doesn't work, then let's grow our organization through the creation of new innovative clubs in our districts. And again, this for me is important because we need to grow our organization, not from just to grow for growth's sake or from an ego perspective, but think of how much good we have done with our current membership at 1.2 million. Can you imagine what we could do if we were 2, 3, 4, 5 million strong? That's what it's all about. It's taking our great concept and the great work we do and expanding it even more so we can have even greater impact in our communities, both locally, regionally, and internationally. And then finally, let me just close with what the second thing is that keeps me up at night, and that is post-polio. What do we do as an organization once we eradicate the disease? And we will. And polio continues to be our #1 corporate initiative. We can't lose focus. We need to get the job done and cross the finish line. But I also think that we need to start thinking now about what happens after we eradicate this disease. And there's a lot of conversation in the Rotary world about whether should we even have a new corporate project after polio. Or perhaps we have a signature project in each of our 7 areas of focus. Or maybe we have signature regional projects. Or maybe we go back to the way, it was before polio. I personally think we need a signature global project. Polio has united the Rotary world, united Rotarians across the globe. And it's also put us at the table with organizations that we would not have been sitting with were it not for polio. CDC, Gates, WHO, UNICEF. It has increased our profile tremendously. And then, of course, the impact of having that project. Again, as I said earlier, we're going to leave a legacy that's going to exist for as long as mankind inhabits the earth. So I personally do feel we need a global project post-polio. And of course, that's going to be a challenge because we have 1.4 Rotary members, and you're probably going to have 1.6 million points of view in terms of what that should be. And that's a good problem to have in a way because it means we do so much, and we do so much in so many areas, and we do it well. And so that's going to be our challenge, is kind of rallying around what that new project is going to be. Now, a few years ago, the Harvard Business Review asked me to do a piece on how it was that Rotary was able to stay singularly focused on polio for 30 plus years. And I said there were really 3 factors in polio that allowed us to hang in there for so long. And I think these 3 factors would need to be present in any future new global project. And the first is, back in 1985 when we started, polio was in 125 countries. So almost every Rotarian around the world knew about polio. It wasn't some exotic, weird disease off in some far-off land. Secondly, because of the oral vaccine, Rotarians could participate in the eradication effort in a way that went beyond check writing or advocating. And I know when I went on my first National Immunization Day in India 10 years ago, and I'm in a small room in a slum in Mumbai, and the mothers are coming in with their children, bringing them in to be vaccinated. And I'm putting 2 drops of polio vaccine in each child's mouth. I'm doing this, and then I look out the window, and I see 4 kids with polio crawling across the street. And at that moment, polio eradication for me became not just a thing I did or an intellectual exercise. It became very deeply emotional, because I knew that by putting the 2 drops of polio vaccine in all these children's mouths that day, they were never going to have to suffer what those 4 children were suffering as I looked out the window. And because of that oral vaccine that allowed all of us who aren't health professionals to be vaccinators, hundreds of thousands of Rotarians went around the world or in their own countries were vaccinating children, and I suspect developed that same deep emotional attachment to the cause that I did that day in Mumbai in the slum. And then the third characteristic is that there is, with polio eradication, a clear end game. We can measure objectively whether polio has been eradicated or not. Either we did it or we didn't. There's no gray here. And so the question then is, what's out there that's clearly measurable? Like if we were to choose world peace, well, when do we declare victory? Right? How do you measure success? And so for me, that's the challenge. How do we find the next project? How do we get consensus around the next project? And it has to have those 3, at least those 3 characteristics. Something that's pretty tangible for most Rotarians, that you can participate without beyond check writing, and third, that it's something there's a clear end game, and you know when you're going to be able, when you have achieved your goal and can declare victory. And of course, the challenge is going to be, how do we develop that process? And now we're, in a typical Rotary way, thinking about the process for coming up with the process of how we're going to sort of deal with the next initiative. And again, polio has to be front burner. We can't take the foot off the gas pedal until we get there, but I do think we now also need to begin thinking about the next project. So I'd like to end my comments here with the phrase that I started with earlier, that I think the future of Rotary is very, very bright. And I think with your leadership, with your support, our great organization, this really extraordinary gift to humanity, I think we'll get past the bumps in the road. I think it'll grow, and we'll continue to fulfill our incredible destiny, and we'll continue to make an even greater difference in the lives of millions and millions around the world. So thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to staying in touch and seeing you in Edmonton. Thank you.
Time for a question or two?
Sure. Thank you.
We have a couple minutes for questions, if there's any questions out there. No Cowboys fans. No Cowboys fans, sorry, Pat.
Sure.
There's a mic right behind you, Pat.
Rotary has typically done its own international projects, but it came to my attention recently that there's a Zambian water project that will be providing water for the whole country pretty soon. And I believe we've partnered with World Watch and a Zambian organization. And I understand that there's almost an 8-to-1 multiplier for every dollar Rotary puts in. Are we going to try to do stuff with Red Cross and some other organizations around the world? We're going to change our policy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, our current policy is to try to partner with as many organizations as we can. That is our current policy. As I mentioned earlier, we've now launched these programs to scale, and that's all about taking the Rotary dollar and leveraging it. So that's $6 million in Zambia for the malaria work that won that competition. $2 million came from Rotary, and the rest came from Gates Foundation and from World Vision. And similarly with the Sri Lankan one, and similarly with the Egyptian one. And we've just now also launched a $30 million initiative with the Gates Foundation for community health centers to expand what we're doing in malaria to the surrounding countries. So that again shows that if we're able to do things at scale, at impact, with great visibility, that then allows us to attract even more donors, more partners, to provide us with funding. We got $5 million from USAID to do work in Italy for COVID. We got another $1.5 million from AID to continue to do projects in Central and Eastern Europe. So we really stepped up our partnership game. It's not easy, but we've really stepped up our partnership game to the point where we're having organizations beyond Gates contribute directly significant money to us so that we can do these larger, more scalable projects.
Time for one more question.
Thank you for what you do, especially the effort that you put in for Ukraine. My wife is from Ukraine, and my father-in-law is sitting out the war at our house. I was just wondering, is there going to be additional push from the Rotary International to continue that aid?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge we have in Ukraine is there's a bit of there's been a donor fatigue, and we've seen a significant drop off in the amount of funding coming into the Ukraine fund. And of course, the world has, we respond to all kinds of situations. The earthquake in Turkey, the earthquake in Morocco, the huge hurricane that hit the Bahamas. I'm sure once we are able to, we'll be responding to what's happening in the Middle East. And so. The challenge is there's always something happening, and there's a limited number of dollars. But the response to Ukraine was extraordinary. Obviously, Ukraine still continues to need help. The war is still ongoing. The brutality still continues. The destruction of the country still continues. The deaths continue. And I very much hope the Rotarians will continue to support the Ukraine effort until this war is over. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, John. I think as Rotarians, what's the proverb say? Let another person's lips praise you and not your own, and we tend to do that a little too much, and we should be bragging a little bit more about all we do, and just the reminder that we're part of a worldwide community that does so much. We do have a book here for Make Way for Books called Duck on a Bike. We'll ask you to sign that, and we're going to be donating it to actually our good member here, David Lovitz, the president of Make Way for Books. We can clap for David. It's okay. It's okay. And now we have some birthdays. President Margaret's not here, so I'll take her minute. No, I won't. Happy birthday, Margaret. Hopefully you're watching. And then we're so blessed to have Marianne. Marianne, who is our birthday's on November 19th. She was the president of our club when she was 20, our youngest president in 1994. Swimming pool construction repair, retired, went to San Jose State University, and president in 2010, right? Joined in 94 when she was 15. Perfect. Marianne?
Thank you, Curtis. I haven't been at the head table for a while for my birthday, but this is kind of a big one. I don't really care who knows how old I am, but I have a friend who really does. She never refers to her actual age on the big ones. She says instead, I'm 40-10, I'm 50-10, or I'm 60-10. So I'm proud to say I'm celebrating my 70-10. So catching up on family news, we have another great-grandchild, number 5, named Riley. She's the happiest baby I've ever seen, and then we call her Smiley Riley. I have a check for this announcement, and great-grandchild number 6 will be coming up in March, so I'll be back up here again. Hopefully that's the last one. We'll have 6 out of the 3 granddaughters. Each one has 2. Lastly, I have a check for Jonathan Walcup's ride, wherever Jonathan, there he is. I am his mentor and happy to do so. He's a wonderful member. We're happy to have you. I'm so thankful for all my Rotary friends and appreciate you all very much. Thank you.
And next we have Matt Nance. Birthday is November 22nd. Joined the club in 2013. Contract remodeling, Arizona Designs Kitchen and Baths. Went to Brigham U and Bradley U. That's my notes here. And something you may not know about Matt Nance. During a trip to Athens, Greece, he instigated no wait, I read that wrong. He didn't instigate the protest. Matt and his wife were caught in a protest and exposed to tear gas. Matt?
So before I forget, this is my double nickel birthday, so my memory's starting to go. I thought I would tell you the most important news. We had our second grandchild yesterday, and he's doing very well. And I know what you're thinking. I don't look like I'm old enough to have 2 grandkids, but I do. So I got that out of the way, and I had some other comments, but during the General Secretary's presentation, I thought of a few other things. So I joined Rotary originally back in a smaller town in Illinois, Morton, Illinois, and was a member there for a long time. And shortly before we moved to Arizona, the Kiwanis started a club in Morton. And I was told, I don't know if this is true or not, when you mentioned the lions, it reminded me of it, that Kiwanis in Native American means I want to be a Rotarian. I don't know if that's true or not. So yeah, that came to my mind. And then also joined, or my company I work for moved, and I ended up transferring to an even smaller club before we moved to Tucson. And we had an old brass bell, and it was pretty dingy. And so one of my assignments was, I think I was a treasurer or something, was to clean up the bell. So I took it home to my dad. He loves to polish things. So took it home to him, and over the weekend we polished the bell, and it looked like a brand new bell. And I took it back, and I said, how did that get so dirty? The club had been around for about 50 years. Some of you who've been around for a while might remember they used to smoke during Rotary meetings. And that was the buildup from all the smoke for all those years that had gathered on the bell. But so there's been a lot of changes, and your presentation reminded me there's still more to come, but that's one of the reasons we enjoy being members of Rotary, because there's a lot to look forward to. Lastly, I thought I'd share with you one of my goals. We were challenged by one of our leaders at church to try to go for a week without saying something unkind about anyone else. Have you ever tried that? It's not that easy. But the point was, if everyone's trying to say something nice about everybody else, think what a difference that would make. If one person's just doing it, doesn't make that much difference. It's the same with Rotary. What little each of us do adds up to a lot. So I do have a check for the Rotary Foundation. Thanks.
And I think we have a birthday I heard on Saturday as well. Is that right? John Hewko's birthday on Saturday, and he was going to go for a ride on his birthday. So happy birthday to you. And we are running a little behind schedule, so Dr. Wong, I'm so sorry. I owe you something big, because we're already past schedule. So I'm. Thank you. I owe him big. He knows where I live. Next, I'd like to welcome up Charlotte Harris, Paul Harris presentation.
I was waiting for John. Today we continue to work towards a world of peace and understanding with a presentation of a Paul Harris Fellow, first to Joseph Lawrence Danishevsky, which is gifted by his father and fellow Rotarian Joe. And Joe is also receiving a Paul Harris Fellow +4 and is wearing his new pin. Possibly Joseph will be watching the presentation via his computer, and his father will present him with his certificate and pin in the future. Joseph's picture is on the screen. He was selected to receive his Paul Harris Fellow because his father believes that Joseph's life exemplifies objectives of the Rotary Foundation, demonstrating a commitment of kindness and to helping persons in need. Born in San Francisco and growing up in several cities, including Tucson, Las Vegas, and Redlands, California, as his father worked in leadership for the Boy Scouts of America, Joseph earned his Eagle Scout in 2010. He earned his BA in History from UC Berkeley in 2016 and was commissioned as an armor officer in the United States Army. and he served as a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division from 2017 to 22, holding leadership positions in cavalry and logistic units. He left active duty to pursue higher education and continues to serve as a captain in the United States Army Reserve. He currently is a law student at the University of Nebraska School of Law, class of 2026. He's married to his wife, Catherine, and they have 2 sons, Eric, 4, and James, 2. Joe, please send our congratulations to Joseph and thank him for his service to our country, and we wish him continued success with his law school studies. And as mentioned, Rotarian Joseph Januszewski is receiving his Paul Harris Fellow +4. Joe attended Lemoyne College in Syracuse, New York, where he was a double major in history and Spanish and an economics minor. His junior year, he studied with the Hamilton College Study Abroad program in Spain. He attended graduate school in Syracuse University, majoring in peace, education, conflict management, and education. For 3 years, he taught high school and middle school Spanish in the Christian Brothers Academy in Syracuse, as well as coaching public speaking and lacrosse. He served 35 years as a commissioned executive with the Boy Scouts and as the executive director, CEO here in Tucson and Redlands, California. He's been a member of our club first from 2004-2008, and then again when he returned to Tucson in 2017 to present. He served on a Rotary Club's board of directors for the past year. Joe has served 3 different Rotary Clubs covering youth services. For the past 4 years, Joe has been the District 5500 Peace Chair. In addition to honoring his son Joseph Lawrence with a Paul Harris Fellow, Joe has also honored his wife Lee, his brother Jerry, and his oldest son Michael. When asked why he supports Rotary International programs, Joe cites the following quote from Albert Schweitzer: "The only one among us who will really be happy are those who will have sought and found out to serve." And Joe continues, "I have been happy to contribute to Polio Plus in the 5 Rotary Clubs I have been a member. In the last 2 years, I donated to the Rotary International Ukraine Response Fund." So please join me in congratulating our 2 newest Paul Harris Fellows. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. And next, it's time for a raffle.
Raffle.
Get the right one, please.
So, first of all, I'd like to thank Bruce and Phil for having the past presidents be our new greeter line today to test it. How did everybody feel about that? So thank you, past presidents, very, very, very much. And John, I thought your speech was very good, and I appreciate it very much. It was very forward-thinking, and thank you. So I'm going to ask you to pick a ticket. Okay, here we go. 499. Yeah. 2 9 0. Yeah, Marcy. And Marcy, what did you tell me? What did you tell me when you bought those tickets? You told me that you didn't do it very often, but you better take 12. So there. So if you, the big pot, if you would pick a card for me. 3 of clubs. You got the small pot. So come see me. I have a cast on my foot. I'm not finding anybody today. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Past President Bruce Jacobs, you got 120 seconds or less.
Thanks for the shout out about the greeters line. Is for members that have been around for a long time. That's what it always felt like when you were coming to a meeting. So look forward to keeping that going. Those of you that came in ended up getting the bios for their slate for 2024-2026 Board of Directors. The election is going to be held in 2 weeks on the 29th, of which you will be selecting 3 candidates to be able to serve on that board. I don't plan on reading the bios to you. I think that, we've spent enough time on literacy that we probably can read them. And I don't know how many are in the room, but I do want to just go down the names, and if you will stand, and if we can hold the applause or the rowdy table until I've listed everybody's name. First is Brittany Battle, who joined us in 2022. Next is Jen Delaney, who joined us in 2020. Jason Graybox, our tenured on the slate, is joined in 2004. Michael Guyman, 2022. Brandy Haga Blackman, also 2022. And Diana Medeiros in 2021. So will you please give them a hand? Next up, President-elect Curtis Dawson.
Oh, boy. Really? You guys clap for him? But there you go. It's better. And we have a Happy Jackson. Alan?
Thank you very much. First, my Rotary bike jersey's in the laundry. Sorry. After 43 years of very exciting, satisfying, fun, and challenging medical practice, I am retiring at the end of this year. Are they happy I'm gone or happy? No. But that is not my Happy Jackson. My Happy Jackson is my daughter. Stand up, stand up. Amy Filsoof is going to be taking my place in practice in my office. She is did her residency and was chief resident at Stanford. So anyway, we're very happy to have her. Thank you very much.
All right. Now, I'm only president-elect, but that sounded like two Happy Jacksons. Is that? To me, it sounded like two Happy Jacksons. We'll put that out to a committee and let you know later. You might receive a bill.
We should do a multiplier, just making it even 50.
I don't think I'm officially allowed to fine, but the Sergeant at Arms can all he wants. Real quick announcement. In our ongoing effort to make our club meetings as engaging as possible for all our members, we are going to be holding kind of like some feedback groups or doing a listening tour from members. So randomly, we're selecting members. We're going to be inviting you to that focus group, and we really want you to please say yes because we want your input. As John said, I thought he was talking about me about product issues, but maybe it was something else he was talking about. We want to make sure our club meetings are the best they can be, so please say yes. We're looking as much feedback as possible, and we already want to thank you in advance for your willingness to be a part of that. Thank you to our guests. Thank you to our virtual guests. Hope you enjoyed the meeting. If you're interested in joining the club, please talk to a Rotarian or go to the table in the back at the end, and we'd be glad to help you do that. Happy birthday to Marianne, and to Matt, and to John, and to Margaret, if you're watching. Congratulations to Joe Danishevsky and Joseph on their Paul Harris. Good luck to all the El Tour de Tucson. Hopefully you are already hydrating and making sure you're stretching so you're going to be ready for Saturday. Next week, no meeting due to Thanksgiving holiday. Hope you all have a happy and safe holiday. And remember, if you don't put it on, you don't have to take it off in January. In 2 weeks, we're going to have the Geotechnical Center for Excellence School of Mining. That says Julia Potter. That is Julia Potter's picture, but Julia Potter is not going to be the one that's going to be here. It's Cray Luxenbacher, and if I butchered that name, I apologize in advance. And next, I would like to invite up Don Jorgensen to do the toast and adjourn.
Thank you, Kurt. I think it's only appropriate today that I quote our founder, Paul Harris, from the 1940 Rotary Convention in Havana. Rotary stands, though the tempest about. Rotary still stands. Why and how? Because it is grounded not on rivalry and suspicion, but on the eternal and indestructible rocks of friendliness, tolerance, and usefulness. So join me in a toast to Rotary International and all of our members who are supporting Polio Plus this year and this weekend. Good luck, riders.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Hopefully I don't get fired. Sorry? I said hopefully I don't get fired after this. Thank you. Well done.
I didn't do much.
Matt got us off track, but don't tell him that.
I don't think anybody minded.
No, well, I don't think. John's probably not happy with me, but I was very clear. The one thing I could cut was that thing. I'm not president yet. I gotta save that one.